All right, folks, one of our last videos is going to be on labeling counts in 2-4, 3-4, and 4-4 time. So I'm going to make a line of each one and 4-4 time. Things to remember for each of them is that when you are dealing with a measure in each set of time, you're only going to count as high as this top number. You're only going to label as high as 2, 3, or 4 when we're talking about our whole beats, when we're doing each one of those. So if we should not have more than 2 beats in a measure of 2-4 time. That doesn't mean only 2 notes, right? Because we can also have 4 notes, but they can be in half. Remember that the first half is always going to have the whole number on it. The second half of a beat is the and. So when we break things up into eighth notes, we are going to have the first part of it be the whole number, the second part of it be the half. Now, if we have something like an eighth rest on beat 1, whenever we have something that we don't say out loud, we put it in a parentheses. And since this isn't the entirety of beat 1, we have the second half hanging out here on its own. So if we were to speak that, we would just have and. Then we have 2. Same thing goes for when we have carried over durations. So if we have something like a dotted quarter with an eighth note, a dotted quarter is worth the same thing as 3/8 notes. So we have all of beat 1 and then the first half of beat 2 carried in here. So we could put 1 with 2 in parentheses, and then we have the and of 2 that we would speak out loud. Again, same thing goes for even longer duration. So if we have something like a half note that's worth 2 beats, we would have 1 all of beat 2 in parentheses, and then speak 3 out loud. Same thing goes for multi-beat rests. If we have a half rest, we would have beats 1 and 2 in this little rest, and then we would have 3 all out. We also have smaller than, maybe I didn't make my measures big enough. Probably not. But when we split up a beat into 4 parts, we're going to have 1, E, and then we have 2. 3 is in parentheses. Now we can also have dotted eighth and 16th note values. When we have that, it's as if we have tied together the first 3 16th notes. We would only speak the first part of that. So it's as if 1 is out, E and are in a parentheses, and we only speak the so we have 1 Now, do you have to write, like if you're showing this to me and you're labeling, do you have to write E and in parentheses? No, I'm not going to be mad. If you just write 1 and you don't put E and in parentheses, I'm not going to be mad about it. But I feel like it helps a lot of people to put it in there to keep track. That's entirely up to you if you want to do that, right? No me importa nada when it comes to that. But I do think that can be helpful for folks from time to time. We might also sometimes see other 16th note combinations, other 8th and 16th note combinations. One of the ones that we ran into the other day was this one where we had a 16th note at the beginning and then an 8th note in the middle and then a 16th note at the end. And that is as if we did this and we tied the middle 2 together. So we would say 1 E, the and is sort of in the parentheses, and then one E, 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 right? That is what we would speak out loud. So that's how we could label it. Again, is it okay if you just write one E, Absolutely. If you want to write one E and then put the and in parentheses, God bless. Go for it, right? And here, let's make it simple. Make those quarter notes, and we have 2, 3, 4. Right? So that's a little bit about labeling our counts. I think I've gone over pretty much everything. Again, the one that tends to get folks are syncopated things, where we end up having, when the accent is not on the beat as we know it. So we saw that the other day when we had something that looked pretty normal, right? We had 3 quarter notes in the middle. This absolutely adds up to 4. These are 4 beats, but we're putting the accent on sort of wrong syllables. So we have 1, but it's not a full beat 1. We have the and of 1 here. 2 sort of in the parentheses, and 3 is in parentheses. We have the and then 4, and then we have the and of 4 that's hanging out there. So the way we would clap that if we have a steady beat, or rather the way we would say it if we have a steady beat, would be 1 and 1 and. So I'm articulating on what is essentially the offbeat. And so what we're clapping, you can hear the, oh, buddy, I made it go away. That was unintentional. But you can hear the claps happening sort of in the middle of these quarter notes, right? It's an interesting thing, syncopation, but you probably would, for your own sake, to know what you're doing, is you'd probably want to do 1 and put 2 and put 3, put and then 4 in parentheses, and do it that way, just so that you could keep track of it. And if you're ever not sure, remember that one of the things that works really well is to subdivide. If you need to break it down into smaller groups and say, all right, I have this one's over here, then I've got a quarter note, then I've got a quarter note, then I have a quarter note, then I have an eighth note on its own, and you just need to label it that way, great, do it. I do that all the time because sometimes it's the only way I can make my brain understand what's happening in the music. So sometimes I just subdivide and circle the parts that I would say out loud, and then it helps me label it and count it well. So hopefully that helps you with labeling.